Welcome into Fantasy Filmball. My name is Dyl, and if you can't tell from my outfit here today, I just saw Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, so let me tell you all about it. So to kick things off, I'm gonna roll all my cards on the table, you get it? But I'm not really the biggest PTA fan out there. While I really respect and admire a lot of his work across his super acclaimed filmography, these are films I think are very well put together, but I just don't really connect with them on a deep emotional level. There Will Be Blood has a phenomenal performance at its core from Daniel Day-Lewis, but overall, I'm pretty cold on that movie. And then we have stuff like Boogie Nights, which I think has a hilarious premise, but it really falls short in execution. And outside of Phantom Thread, which I personally believe is Paul Thomas Anderson's magnum opus, because it's a film that broke my heart and put it back together all inside of one. If I were to do a rating of every single Paul Thomas Anderson movie I have seen, you'd probably call me insane, so why don't we do that? Here's the list. Drop down below how crazy I am. So with all that being said, I kind of think I am the person you want to hear from when it comes to PTA's newest film, his foray into blockbuster cinema, because for some reason, Warner Brothers gave this man $150 million to make what I assume they thought would be a high-stakes action comedy destined to light the box office on fire, starring Hollywood's biggest leading man, Leonardo DiCaprio. And while I think we did get PTA's version of that initial vision, because it's filled with technically well-done car chase sequences, a massive riot scene, and some action sprinkled in, here and there, but at its core, it's the film's message, it's the film's movement, it's the dialogue that really rings true to the audience. I honestly don't think that this film is going to make back its budget, but truthfully, I don't think that really matters because what we did get is a pretty darn good film out of it. Now, if you are unfamiliar with what One Battle After Another is, I don't really know how you made your way to this channel because we talk about award season here, and this has been one of the biggest award season contenders all season long. But in case you're new here, welcome in. On Fantasy Filmball, we discuss award season, on-the-ground festival coverage, and movie reviews just like the one you're watching. So if you want to stay up to date, feel free to drop a subscription down below. But regardless, the trailers for PTA's 10th film kind of sold us on something that this movie really isn't. The first trailer boasts comedy with a grand scale epic action vibe, and the second one kind of leads into the revolution and battle set pieces, but neither really captures what this film is at its core. One Battle After Another opens in a gritty, brutally honest way. We flash back to the core conflict in the heart of the revolution behind this liberation group, the French 75, and surprisingly, the first hour is really centered around Tiana Taylor's character, and let me just say, I am so glad she is finally getting her flowers. Real ones know her from her music days under Kanye's Good Music label, dropping bangers such as the album filled of here's entitled Keep the Same Energy, but cinema fans like you and myself should know her from her incredible overlooked performance in 1001. That same energy, compassion, motivation, and heartbreak is all here inside of this performance. She plays this aspiring, determined revolutionary leader who knows exactly what she wants and refuses to let anything or anyone get in her way. She's got laughs, she's got action, she's got swagger, and I was all in for her performance. But then One Battle After Another's tone really kind of shifts once the story moves away from Tiana Taylor's character and pivots towards the revenge arc of Colonel Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, and the comedic rumblings around of Leonardo DiCaprio's character Bob Ferguson. We start getting more of the film that we were expecting from the trailers. But before we can continue this review of One Battle After Another, we have to talk about the real standout star here, Sean Penn. This man has already won 2 Oscars, and by the time of next ceremony, if he is not holding number 3, we're going to have to start our own revolution, because he plays one of the most despicable, one of the most hateful characters you will ever see on screen, and yet somehow he makes him so compelling. It's all in the way that he brings this character to life. He has this weird little walk, he has these awkward, out there facial expressions, and then he has these random lines of dialogue that shouldn't be funny, but somehow kinda are. This is one, if not Penn's career-defining performances, and he masterfully portrays this brutality and this nastiness in the best way possible. But now back to the rest of the ensemble, because this cast is really the film's biggest strength and one of this year's best ensemble cast. DiCaprio is of course always a major positive in whatever movie he's in, and here it's no exception because he does exactly what we expect from him. He's funny, he's charismatic, and he keeps the audience locked in. Is it one of his most iconic performances? Not really, but I find it to be super effective. And if we're speaking about comedy, we also have Benicio del Toro. A lot of his best gags, I guess, kind of were inside the trailer, but every time this film starts to drag a little bit or it kind of lose its steps either here or there, he shows up and he jolts this film right back to life. And then we have newcomer Chase Infinity. I find her to be a revelation because her face-off of Sean Penn in the back half of this film is some real acting, and she really owns that moment against one of the best of all time. I really cannot wait to see where her career goes from here and what projects she has lined up next. And then for Regina Hall, it's no secret I'm a really big fan of her work. I loved her in Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul. But here, maybe because of the editing, maybe because of the way the screenplay was adapting the source material, she just doesn't really get much to do. She's solid with what she is given, but I kind of wish she had more relevance to this overall story. But moving beyond the performances, the screenplay itself is a huge highlight, especially in how it tackles the current state of US politics. It's kind of wild really thinking about this because it's based on a novel from decades ago, shot a year or two back, and yet it mirrors so much of what we're seeing in real life right now, from riots to police brutality to ICE, nationalist groups, and hate speech. It's all here inside of this film, and it's handled with sharp, often biting humor. And this is one particular aspect in the film, the so-called Christmas Adventurers Club, funny enough as it sounds, and without really spoiling anything about it, what PTA does with that storyline might be some of the best piece of political satire writing that I've seen in years. I really admire how PTA approaches this political context because we've seen in real life, if you come at it with a straight direct arrow, you're gonna have two sides of the die, but here making it so comedic, making it so satirical, it's kind of hard for anyone to really look at this and say, no, I don't like that. I'm against the views here because it's pretty clear what is right and what is wrong. So yeah, I did like One Battle After Another quite a lot, but I really didn't love it, and that mostly comes down to the runtime. At nearly 3 hours, even though this film is always moving forward, it feels long. Like, you know that feeling when you've been in a theater for a lot of time, you're like, wow, I've been here for a while, even if I did enjoy pretty much every bit of it. But one part I really didn't enjoy was the ending. It didn't really feel natural. We've heard about all of these test screenings for months about One Battle After Another, and honestly, the final 10 or so minutes do feel like studio notes, trying to wrap things up in a way that would, test well to general audiences, rather than a conclusion that grows organically out of the story we spent 3 hours watching play out. Technically though, One Battle After Another is a stunner. PTA's visual style is as strong as ever. The cinematography is gorgeous. I saw this in IMAX on that giant screen and it looks phenomenal. And the sound design was honestly kind of overwhelming at times, both in good and bad ways, though I think that's more of a theater-specific issue because when I saw Joker Rafalia do here last year, I had the same sort of issues where the score was kind of overbearing some of the lines of dialogue, and then especially when you have loud noises like in this film, such as the gunshots, they are so loud, like you feel them inside your chest, which can be a positive, like I said, but at other times it is really taken away from some of the lines of dialogue that are being spoken at the same exact moment. And then one aspect I think a lot of people want to hear about inside of One Battle After Another is Johnny Greenwood's score, which it's solid, maybe a little bit overhyped from what we are all expecting here. I love his work. Usually his scores end up amongst my favorites of their respective years, but this one kind of reuses a lot of motifs a little bit too much for my taste. And this is going to sound really weird because The Brutalist had one of the best scores of last year, but it kind of reminds me of The Brutalist where it's that same theme again and again, just either sped up or slowed down or reversed, which isn't a negative. Kind of want some variety with it. However, that opening track, it recurs a few times, but it's such a standout. Once this score hits streaming, I'll be looping that track again and again and again. And then, of course, like most PTA films, the musical supervision, especially in the needle drops, are on point. Perfect songs for the perfect moments. But to wrap this all up, One Battle After Another perfectly encapsulates the real-life horror of the United States at this very moment. And I think that's really backed by phenomenal performances, especially from Sean Penn. Paul Thomas Anderson's newest film stretches its 2-hour and 50-minute runtime to the absolute max. With high-energy car chase sequences, laugh-out-loud humor from its ensemble, and just enough political honesty to spark some real conversation amongst your movie-going group, it's not a perfect movie, but I find it to be a pretty impactful movie, a pretty important movie, and a deeply engaging experience. One Battle After Another is a film I did quite enjoy. However, I do have to beg the question, is it the defining generational shaping masterpiece that some of the early buzz has tried to build it up to be? Personally, I didn't really see it that way, but that doesn't mean it's not worth your time. Whether you adore this movie, whether you love this movie, maybe you just like it, or maybe even you have some massive issues with One Battle After Another, it's a film that sparks conversation. It's so well crafted from top to bottom. It's filled with standout performances from its ensemble cast, and it's packed with thoughtful, timely social commentary, and I find it to be an important and an intriguing film of our current time in this world, and it demands to be seen on the biggest screen possible. At the end of the day, after one initial viewing of this movie, I'm gonna have to give it a very strong 7 out of 10. I quite enjoyed it. I had some minor pacing problems, and there's some stuff I would like to see clear up a little bit on future viewings, but lucky for me, I already have a ticket to see it in VistaVision on opening weekend up in New York City. I am so excited about that. However, we are an awards channel here at the end of the day, so we have to talk about the Oscar prospects. And crazy enough, One Battle After Another has had such an interesting trajectory over the course of award season so far. All the way back in like January, February, and March, when we started thinking about the 2026 Oscars, it was the frontrunner. People were thinking this was going to sweep every single category. And then the reports about some of the mixed test screenings, about screening a 3-hour version, a 2-hour version, to acclaim, to dismay from general audiences, started to hit the rumor mill, and people like myself started to drop it down in a few categories. Then we get to a few weeks ago when it starts screening to select critics as well as some of the industry, and we hear this rapturous praise for it, so now it is shooting right back up the list. Now, where do I really see this film at the moment? Currently, if we're going in terms of safe nominations, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Sean Penn for Supporting Actor, and Best Original Score feel pretty locked for a nomination for me. Then if we go a little bit further down the line, this is where it really depends if it's winning Best Picture, like some of this current buzz kind of has for it, or if this turns into like The Killers of the Flower Moon, or The Fabelmans, or The Irishman, that film that has so much win potential buzz, but then once we get around to like January and February, it just teeters out and it kind of walks out the door with 0 wins. That's where stuff really starts to switch for One Battle After Another, because I could totally see a world where it wins picture, PTA wins either director and adapted, or even both, Sean Penn wins supporting actor, score comes along in this package, and then we see additional nominations such as editing and cinematography. Then you have stuff like makeup, sound, and casting, which I think are kind of more long shots, but still have a pretty good argument for them. Casting, it's a brand new category. We really haven't seen how it plays out yet, but we have to assume it follows in the footsteps of BAFTA as well as the Guild. BAFTA really likes when you have an acting winner paired with it, which Sean Penn totally can be a winner in the supporting acting category, but casting also seems to really enjoy when he casts unknown talent, youthful actors, which One Battle After Another has Chase Infinity, who really rocked her time inside of this movie. So 2 things that bode well for the category, but also if this isn't a top 2, a top 3 movie at the end of the day, I don't think it really needs this nomination. As I mentioned before, sound is really good inside the movie. Just this year, we have Wicked, we have Sinners, we have Springsteen, we have 3 music movies that all seem pretty destined for the nomination. We have Avatar and F1, loud action spectacles, which also seem destined. So is there room for One Battle? I lean no, but it's still in the cards. And then if you're looking here, the most wild one I have on this list is Best Makeup and Hairstyling. I can't say what they do. It's a pretty big spoiler, but when you see what they do with the makeup, it's really, really good work. So if they're really stretched for nominees, if they really love this movie, this is an additional carryover +1 type nominee to help build that overall nomination package. But the last ones I want to talk about before we wrap things up today are the additional acting nominations. Like I said before, I think Sean Penn is essentially a lock for a nomination. He's just too good inside this movie. This movie seems too big in the award season race for him to go unseen inside the supporting actor category. But we do have Leonardo DiCaprio in Best Lead Actor and Tiana Taylor in Best Supporting Actress. And this is where I really think it depends on the film's overall strength. If this is our Best Picture winner, I think they both come along. If this is the Best Picture runner-up or maybe the number 3 film, I think Leo misses and Tiana Taylor finds her way in. I think she has enough in her limited screen time where if you really love this movie, you can find space for her in your nomination list. Because as I mentioned, she has the moments, she has the voiceover, she has the crying, she has the yelling, she has the comedy, she has everything you want to see. She just doesn't really have the screen time. And then for Leo, like I kind of mentioned before, it's a Leo performance. He's funny, he's charismatic, he's charming, but is he doing anything we really haven't seen him do before? We saw just a few years ago for Killers of the Flower Moon where he's doing brand new things we haven't really seen him do before in a giant Best Picture movie, and he still misses out due to competition. This year, lead actor might be a little weaker, but I also think this performance is a little weaker than what he did over in Killers of the Flower Moon. So fresh out of the movie theater, the nominations I currently have for One Battle After Another include Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Sean Penn for Supporting Actor, Best Original Score, Best Editing, and Best Cinematography. So I currently have it for 7 nominations, but 0 wins because I don't think that this is going to be our Best Picture winner. I think going forward, especially once we start hitting some of these precursors, Sinners is going to start to rack up some wins. Warner Brothers is going to put more of its focus over there. However, if we see this end up being, instead of something like The Fabelmans, where it has this early buzz for its director to finally receive this Academy acclaim after so long, it turns into something like Oppenheimer, where this director who we've always wanted to shower with awards finally has the right movie to win. Then One Battle After Another can soar, and when I just mentioned before, 7 nominations, shoot that up. Throw in Leo, throw in Tiana Taylor, throw in casting. There you go, 10 nominations right there, and then it probably wins a few of those. If I had to say if they're going to give PTA a career type win at this moment, I would say it's probably more so for screenplay than it is for director, especially with the buzz that's out there for Hamnet. Yes, Chloe Zhao was just one director a few years ago, but that movie sounds so much more like a directing feat than a screenwriting feat, so if they're going to split the awards, One Battle feels more like a writing feat than a directing feat, even though his direction is still very good inside the movie. Regardless though, I don't want to keep yapping. If you made it this far inside the review, thank you so much. Comment down below if you've seen One Battle After Another and let me know your thoughts about it, or what are your current Oscar projections for Paul Thomas Anderson's newest movie. If you like what you heard today, feel free to leave a like. It helps the channel continue to grow, and subscribe because Matt and myself are going to be right back here with more predictions on the channel, as well as in-person festival coverage. New York is right around the corner, as well as my local regional fest of Philadelphia and Virginia. But until next time, my name's Dyl. This is Fantasy Filmball. Go out there and see One Battle After Another, and until next time, peace.